Bob also served as chair of the Illinois Integrated Justice Information System Privacy Policy Subcommittee and produced several key policy guidelines in that role. Bob is currently chair of the Global Advisory Committee, elected in the fall of 2006, and a member of Global's Executive Steering Committee. And Global is the group which is the official advisor to the Attorney General, my boss, in terms of our overall working with the state, local, and justice communities in general. Bob is the regional representative to the National Criminal Justice Association Advisory Council, a member of NCJA Board of Directors, and represents NCJA on Global. Prior to coming to Illinois Criminal Justice Information Authority, Bob was a Chicago police officer. So welcome, Bob, to the panel also. So in continuing the mode when Vivek was here, we just want to open up. This is a time where you can tell us what's on your mind in terms of how you think, where you think NIEM should go, what are the issues you see as practitioners, and how can we all work together to make NIEM a success. So I'd like to open it up to the floor, and then all of us will participate in those discussions. Silence. Surely we have somebody who's got a question or a suggestion.
I'll bravely ask a question. I wonder, it appears to me that with NIEM I could have a standard, but I could still have multiple copies of the same data element. For example, if I had the ID of person, I could still have 40 information systems inside my organization that all define person, and there's not a mandate to define them the same way. I could have the same person with different addresses, sometimes with a middle initial, sometimes with a middle initial. So is the harmonization or deconfliction of the instance data something that NIEM is interested in, or is that just a matter of local governance?
Okay. Donna or Shimendra, I think you're the best.
I think they're all pointing at me for some reason. So the way we handle this in DHS, surely there will be multiple physical definitions of a person across the systems in the department. I think the best way to handle this with NIEM is to not focus on how they are stored internally, but to focus on how, when you need to link them or when you need to query them or when you need to exchange that information, to focus on that common definition. So at DHS, for example, we have the concept of the core biographics for all of our screening systems. So we focused and created a reference information exchange around 5 simple common elements by which we then drive interoperability across all of the systems that have the definition of a person. So it's that small commonality that you can then say, I can link data about person because I know there's a pretty good chance it's the same person. I'm carrying those 5 common elements.
Yeah, so there's 2 use cases that I think about. One is you have an existing legacy implementation, an organization like DHS or really anybody in the federal government. You have the same issues, state, local. You don't really have the option of radical re-architecture. You need to deal with what you have and evolve it. And an excellent strategy is to look at what's your target to be in terms of business processes, drill that down to exchange requirements, build a reference exchange, and then that reference exchange becomes a built-to standard as you modernize your legacy systems. And what you want to do is gradually move each of the legacy systems to expose their data using that reference exchange on some sort of an enterprise service bus or what have you. Another example or use case is you're doing something more greenfield. A great example of that is the National Suspicious Activity Reporting Initiative. They're taking more of a pure shared space model, right, where they've got the same idea of a reference exchange that everybody's building to, local control over the information, local control over when they expose that into the shared space, so you can do federated queries. So 2 models, depending on what you're looking at.
Good morning. From the federal perspective, I wonder if you had any guidance on procurement and project management plans for implementing NIEM in your programs?
So the question is any federal guidance on procurement or project management plans. I think, this goes to some of what Vivek was saying earlier. When you embark on a large IT system, it's really important to do the upfront planning. Right? And I think, architecture is a 12-letter word for plan, right? That's so, and the more complex the initiative, the more cross-boundary, domains of government, levels of government, citizen-facing, having private sector partners, it's that much more important to have a good architecture that is shared, and the architecture has to be at the performance level. What are the target outcomes? The business level, agreement on the key business processes and scenarios. At the services level, what was everybody doing behind the different interfaces and so on. So that's not specific to NIEM. That's just a general engineering best practice, and I think that all too often we don't spend as much time as we need to thinking about architecture and planning, and in particular, and I think Richard was making this point earlier, as you look at a different system, whether it's a law enforcement system in a specific state, county, or in the federal government, how does that fit into the other law enforcement systems? How do you make sure you design interoperability in from the beginning? Now that is a specific value add of NIEM, and there's some training materials and things like that about how to think about the scenario planning aspects of NIEM, and I'll just refer you to those for more detail.
I would just add again from the DHS perspective, it is certainly any new project now will leverage and we will mandate the use of NIEM. I would also say that I'm a huge proponent of PM disciplines, particularly for large-scale programs, starting with the architecture, but ensuring that you really do, we can get into a long discussion, but perhaps not NIEM-related, around how do you actually start a program the right way. But, a couple foundational elements, having the right partnership between the mission function, or the business, if you will, and IT, having that partnership work well from a governance perspective, and really focusing both on having the right skill sets to oversight programs, and having the right requirements, the functional requirements become so critical. When I review programs, particularly when you're at the start, those are the kinds of things that I look at as foundational to success. And if they're not in place, I've taken a very hard line in this regard. We don't start until they get in place correctly. So the right program and project team members, the right requirements baseline, the right partnership model between, if you will, the business and IT.
I have a question around state and local governments, specifically at the county level or city level, don't seem to be adopting NIEM as much right now. Is there a push for them to adopting it for most of their integrations, be it their live scan systems to their citation systems to arrests and so on and so forth? Because that's what I'm finding for the last 3 or 4 years. The state and local governments, they want to be NIEM compliant in their RFPs, but when you really come down to the implementation of it, they want to go with their old format, pretty much.
I'll start off, and then maybe, Bob, you can pick up, since you are our designated expert on the outreach to state, local communities. In terms of a specific push, I think the the State Association of CIOs has adopted NIEM and has been a tremendous partner with us in terms of educating and pushing at the state and local level NIEM as a standard and as a concept, and has been extremely beneficial for us. The other thing that is proven to be very good, frankly, is the contractor community. One thing that is always impressive to me is, and it makes me feel great, is when I have when I see in contractor literature that they say that they are NIEM compliant, and many of the vendors currently who pursue law enforcement as a major target have that. I mean, that's almost a standard, and that's what we want to happen on a more broad-based basis. But I think the vendors can really help us get the word out about NIEM also. And Bob, you want to pick it up from there?
And I think that is a difficult challenge, and we see that when we're working with not only NIEM but a lot of the global products as getting the adoption out there. I think that justice is ahead in a lot of respects because NIEM really grew up in justice. It grew up state and local practitioners basically sitting around the table at one point, and some tell the story of actually sitting around the bar and writing some things on a napkin and starting out with the GGXDM. But the point was it was people that were solving business problems, working its way up, and I think that through the global processes, when we have the chiefs associations and the sheriffs associations, state, local, tribal, and federal people at the table, we try to use them a lot and to get the word out. You also mentioned, Van, a key partner with Global is the IGES Institute, who really brings the industry together to say, you know, there's some standards being developed, there's things being developed, let's incorporate these in their project, let's help develop them, but let's help incorporate these into the products that we put out there in the field. So I think that industry comment is really important. That's the ultimate way how it's really going to get out there when industry is adopting it and selling it.
That's right. And the thing that has impressed me in many of the forums is the success stories that you hear about not just serving the purpose of a standard and providing interoperability and information sharing, but actual cost savings that people have demonstrated by not having to reinvent the wheel or not having to go through the agony of figuring out how to accomplish the role that NIEM can play in your organization, in your major information system development project. So there's great economies of scale and business benefits available through NIEM just because it's there. It works. That's one of the things that I really like when you get Vivek. The first meeting we had with him, the thing that he liked immediately about NIEM is its broad user base, the number of organizations that actually are using it, and the fact that it has been implemented across many organizations and is actually it's built is used as a standard for many different systems. It's not a concept, and the fact that it's working. So his approach is, and this would be mine also. Why, if something works and it's pretty good or half decent, why not use it? I mean, you don't want to reinvent the wheel. So I think that's key, is the fact that it's got tremendous utility, and there's a big base of users and a nice support network in place to help people along who are just starting.
There's I'd like to add a little bit to this. I think there's a maturation process with any standard or technology. And where we are now with NIEM is, I think that there's a huge opportunity for the different governance bodies, the stakeholders, to push hard on the concept of reference exchanges and then certification around conformance. I think looking ahead, those are things that I would challenge the community and the governance bodies involved in the community to be thinking about, whether they're federal organizations thinking about reference IPDs or the NBAC and the NTAC thinking about what does certification for conformance look like at some point?
This is Bob Sher. I have a comment I'd like to address. I'm here representing the National Emergency Number Association. Yesterday there were representatives from APCO. Those two organizations deal with CAD vendors and with vendors in emergency services. And one of the things I think we need to explore, and I talked to Donna about this yesterday, is kind of the relationships between NIEM and those organizations. For example, APCO, in their alarm standard that they put out, it is NIEM compliant. NINA hasn't moved to that yet, so it's one of the things that we need to talk about as an industry.